We are back with another loaded episode from the Bluebloods for your Tuesday. We start the episode off by discussing a potential Pac-12 protest in the works. We then debate which schools have the best defensive line units for this upcoming 2020 season. And then we move to our recruiting re-rank, where again we re-rank past recruiting classes, and today we move to the 2018 class. We wrap up the show with another recruiting update, and today we head down to College Station to check in on the Texas A&M Aggies. We got a full show today, guys, so let's kick it off. Huge news from the Pac-12 dropped late Friday afternoon in a tweet from former Arizona State QB Rudy Carpenter. And Carpenter tweeted out that said there's a group of Pac-12 players that created a list of demands for the conference in each university, and if these demands are not considered, complied with, met, then the players are ready to boycott this upcoming season. And Carpenter said the original idea was to actually create a players union, but due to coronavirus, that's really not possible right now. The demands are as follows. First, players want a 50-50 revenue split. Secondly, the players want 6 years insurance upon graduation. And lastly, the players want better COVID testing protocols. Apparently, the players met Sunday, and it could go into early this week. And they're scheduling a meeting to organize more demands and pretty much unionize to kind of get these demands met. Players from the Cal Bears are supposedly leading this charge, and this is for sure going to create waves throughout college football. So, Brandon, we're going to break this down, I guess issue by issue. But I want to start here. Do you think that the players are going to be able to achieve this? Is this even possible?
No, it's not. I'm all for players being able to make money off of their image. As a matter of fact, I wish players would be able to make money for playing college football. But their demands, are they not a little steep? And that might be what they're going for here. They might be trying to set the bar super high right now. That way, when they go to the negotiating table, they can meet somewhere in the middle. But a 50-50 revenue split with the schools, that's not possible. There's no chance. NFL players aren't getting 50-50 revenue shares with their owners, are they?
No, it's not even close. I don't think any professional sports, the MLB union, players union, usually gets everything they want. That's probably the strongest union across sports. They don't even get that.
Right. I understand they want more stringent COVID testing. That makes sense. The insurance is a little iffy. I'd still say that's a little optimistic for the players. I don't think they're getting that. But they're definitely not getting that money, dude. There's no chance. Like we just stated, professional players aren't getting that sort of thing. Also, professional players aren't getting 6 years of insurance once they're done playing for the team they just played for. I don't understand how this is very reasonable. And like I said, I'm all for players making money while they're in college. This seems a little much, right?
Yeah, it's okay. So Brandon, I want to break this down point by point. We'll start with the 50-50 revenue split. The Pac-12 revenue for the 2018 to 19 fiscal year was $530 million, Brandon.
Yeah, that's a Patrick Mahomes contract.
Exactly. And they redistributed over $380 million of that to each school, which averaged out to about $32.2 million per school. That's pretty great, right? That's a good income for a school. And just for our listeners to know, that money is used to fund other sports that might not turn a profit in the athletic department. And it goes back into the athletic department, which benefits the players who, by the way, are the ones complaining and future athletes. That money goes to, Alabama, I don't know if you guys saw, just released the pictures of their new locker room. It's outrageous.
Looks like LSU's.
It looks LSU, Alabama. I think Auburn just got a new player development lounge. All these, this is what that money goes and does, and it benefits the players. Plus, it goes back into scholarships and stuff for other athletes. But like you said, man, can we just agree the Pac-12 is going to laugh this off? So, Brandon, So that's about $265 million is about half of that. So teams, let's just take the 85 scholarship players each team in the Pac-12 has. That's a little bit over 1,000 players total just for football. That's it. This is just for football. That would mean every scholarship player would earn about $250,000 each year.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And what about bench players or walk-ons or anything like that? Like so the players are organizing this. How does that get broken down? Do you do production? Because that could vary a lot based on certain things. Do you do snaps played? Do you do seniors get the most and trickle down to freshmen? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't heard. I mean, I scoured. Not a single player, anyone has broken this down into how this is going to be, developed, how this is going to work. I mean, that just doesn't even seem logically possible that could happen. And that's taking the entire fiscal year for the Pac-12. That's not just football.
Right.
And so you're talking about all these players just wanting this money. I mean, you have to have a more concrete plan than that. And, everything sounds great when it's spoken or in this case tweeted, but let's be honest here. This is a ridiculous request. I mean, if we're going to start paying players over $100,000 a year to play, Brandon, then should they still receive free housing, free meals, free gear, and all the other free benefits that players get?
No, I mean, and I think they're failing to realize that, hey, that is what you're getting. Like that's part of it. I mean, in my honest opinion, no. If they're getting a salary for playing college football, then no, cut all that. Go buy your own food, buy your own housing, buy your own equipment. I mean, I understand that a scholarship covers so much, but do you really think that other students that are on full ride scholarships at that school are going and getting the same benefits as an athlete does? No, they're not.
No, and I mean, wouldn't free housing wouldn't that better suit students who are going to donate, bring money to university in other ways that aren't making a salary? I mean, so I hear this argument all the time, and it really irks me. And I got to shout out my friend Blake here. He kind of broke this down for me, and he asked me the same question. He was like, do you think football players are the only ones making money, making millions for universities? He was like, you don't think the engineers who go on to huge engineering firms, scientists, lawyers, etc., aren't going to donate or bring money back into the schools like football players would?
They will. Absolutely, they will.
And I mean, internships and connections and stuff like that. I mean, how much money do you think Tim Cook, Phil Knight, and all these big time, Tim Cook was an Auburn graduate, now CEO of Apple. How much money do you think he brings back into the university? I would say a lot more than the football team.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And it's just, I don't want to echo too much of what, our guest Cole Kubelik said a few episodes back, but I mean, and I've said it even before we had him on the podcast, me and Brandon have talked about it. I just hate this narrative that college football players are exploited. And I saw a tweet from a prominent ESPN analyst. His name is slipping me right now, but he said, how come when these players get these scholarships from Oregon, Alabama, Clemson, they all say hashtag blessed or hashtag grateful or something like that? How come none of them say hashtag exploited until they've already exploited the university for all this free stuff?
That's fair enough. I mean, what happens to these players when they sit out? If they do go on strike, do they pull their scholarships? I mean, do they?
You have to, right?
You have to. You have to get players that are going to play, and that's the thing. There are going to be players that still want to play. Do you know how many kids are out there who want to go play college football? And I don't want to knock the Pac-12 too much right now, but I mean, with the exception of a few exceptional players, they're not a great conference. I mean, where would you rank them in the Power Five, Zach?
Probably fourth.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of players that aren't getting those scholarship offers from schools that are pretty close, walking on to other schools that could easily take a scholarship spot here in the Pac-12 if these players didn't want to play, if they wanted to go on strike over this.
Okay, so let's just take a non-Power 5 school. Let's just take Cincinnati or Memphis. Where was Memphis going to finish last year in the Pac-12? I would say minimum second.
Yeah,
They might not have beat Oregon, but I'm taking Memphis over USC last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about North Dakota State? Where do you think they finished? I think that still could finish top 3.
It would be close if they didn't.
Let's just say this. So this got started at Cal. Are you taking North Dakota State over Cal?
Yes, 9 times out of 10.
Are you taking Appalachian State last year over Cal?
Yes.
It's okay, so hear me out, guys. So Brandon, you're a graduate. I graduated from Auburn. I'm currently a student. Do you think if I called my professor right now and said, hey, I'm not coming to class, I'm boycotting until my pay for being a lab manager is raised and I'm not going to class till this, do you think they're going to keep paying me?
No, they're going to hire somebody else.
They are going to laugh in my face, guys. And another thing I saw is, everyone's saying, oh, college football players are exploited and this and that. How much money are colleges already on the hook for possibly losing this season, where players are taking a time of vulnerability from these colleges to just jump and be like, hey, we demand a 50-50 split. We demand this. We demand that. It's like, why weren't you demanding this years ago? Why'd you have to wait till a time where there's so much uncertainty to kind of jump and catch everybody off guard here?
And here's what I'll say. In a time of economic distress that we're in right now, and it kind of plays to what you said, how I don't want to say selfish are you. So I take it back. I will say how selfish are you to demand a 50-50 revenue split while, what's the unemployment rate at right now? It's over 10% in the United States, and you're demanding what? You're already getting stipends. You're already getting a scholarship. You're already getting all the benefits of being a student athlete. And you're coming in with, we want 50% on top of that. I mean, come on.
And that stipend money doesn't have to go to power. It doesn't have to go to water, electrical bill, cable. And if I've been to South Donahue at Auburn, they have cable, they have water, power, everything's paid. There's there's a convenience store on the first floor of South Donahue that literally has an entire freezer section, candy, everything, drinks, anything you need. First floor South Donahue, you get off the elevator, walk right up to it.
Yeah. And I don't know. And these kids aren't paying for it either. I mean, they have a certain amount they can use at Auburn. That Auburn gives them a certain amount that they can use toward that, but they don't pay for it.
Yeah, and I've had it. It's like $1,000 a semester.
Yeah.
On top of the hundreds that you're getting as your stipend. I mean, man, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, guys. So we'll move on to the second point here, and that's the insurance up to 6 years after graduation. And I understand the sentiment. Hear me out. If it's for football related things, I think they might have an argument, Brandon. So let's say a kid late his senior year, he graduates in March or May or whatever, tears his ACL in December, has to get a second surgery after he graduates, all this stuff. I got you. That's amazing to have that insurance. And that's why I think the Pac-12 is going to give in here, and they're going to give this insurance, but I don't think it's going to be for 6 years. I think it'll be for 1 to 3, somewhere in that range, and it's going to be flipped where it has to be football related. So if you had a bunch of concussions and it comes out that you're struggling with that, within that time frame, then yes, that school could be on the hook. They could help you out, and that's all great. But so you're a student athlete. You should have a degree. You should have playing experience to a new job, whether that be you take your degree as a football player, you go to a law firm, you go to the NFL. Both of those places offer you insurance, correct? I mean, if you're going to a law firm that doesn't offer you health insurance, you probably don't need to be going to that law firm.
Right.
I mean, or if you're an accountant, I mean, Brandon, you have an accounting degree. Would you take a job with any accounting firm that didn't offer any benefits?
No, man, that was top priority, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. If you have a family and some of these players have kids after graduation, you shouldn't be taking a job that doesn't offer health insurance. And listen, I would say that if this is going to go through, it should be 1 to 2 years, because hear me out. because that's a transition period. There might be an emergency, something happened. You don't make it in the NFL. You fail to find a job for the first year. You have that insurance to fall back on for childcare, for your wife, for you. And I get that. But after 2 years, if you still haven't found a job or haven't done anything, why should that fall on the university? I mean, I'm an Auburn graduate. I graduated in 2018. Been 2 years. If let's just say I had insurance, why is it Auburn's job to support me now if I haven't done anything for 2 years?
Right. No, and these kids do have. I'm fairly certain they get insurance policies while they're at school.
They do. They do. I mean, because I know a few players have came out and spoken about that. They do have insurance policies, but 6 years? You can't find a job or somewhere to go for 6 years.
6 years on top of the 4 that you're already offered. I mean, that's the thing. You're getting 10 years of insurance, and Zach, insurance is not cheap. It's not. It can be hundreds of dollars a month, depending on your plan. I mean, and if it's the sort of things that a football player needs to be insured on, it's going to be hundreds of dollars a month. And for the university to show that out for every single player on their roster for 10 years, it's not reasonable.
Well, if you have 85 scholarship players a year, I mean, how many is that over? I mean, how many graduating classes? I mean, you have about 20, 25 in each class. So you have 6 classes of 25 players you have to support. That's an outrageous amount of money. And you're already asking for a 50-50 revenue split.
Right.
It's not going to happen, guys. Listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not going to happen. And they can boycott all they want. They're not getting a 50-50 revenue split.
They're not getting that. They might get some insurance. Here's my idea. Look, give them the 50-50 revenue split, and they can use some of that money to buy an insurance policy.
Well, then you go to the Kublik's idea, where if they're getting a full salary over $100K a year, taxes, can you let a player go if he sucks?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that now.
I mean, you can bench him, but you can't. But if he wants to stay at the university, you have to keep paying him on scholarship.
Yeah, fair.
But what happens if they cut him? Then that kid can't get an education. Then what do you think the public would do if LSU, let's say Miles Rennie came out, sucked this year, LSU was like, all right, that's it, you got to leave. What do you think would happen? You
didn't have to bring up Miles Brennan like that, but public outcry probably,
Exactly. So it's a double-edged sword here, guys. But listen, we'll wrap this up by saying I don't think we have to break this down, Brandon. The COVID is a great idea. I am so glad that they ended on a good note, because if we're going to ask these players to put their health on the line at a time like this, they deserve the highest quality medical care you could ever find. And I think the NBA is setting a perfect example. The NBA right now is a perfect example. Today, right when we were recording, the NBA said over 350 players tested, none had COVID. That's amazing. And college football needs to follow suit.
The NBA is a great example. The NFL is like the opposite of that. And the NFL is like the worst example, where they just aren't like they aren't. It's almost like they aren't taking it seriously in a way. It's like Roger Goodell just said, you know what, let's play football. Yeah, we're gonna be safe, and then they just aren't.
Well, that's Roger Goodell, man. You knew anything you put in front of Roger Goodell, he's going to screw it up.
That's fair enough.
But guys, we are gonna go ahead, move on here. Second segment of the day. A while back, we ranked current college football quarterback rooms, backfields, wide receiver units for the upcoming season. Go way back. I mean, it's been a while now with interviews and shorter episodes we've had to do. So go find it. It's out there. But we're going to continue that segment. We're going to bring it back, the best of the best at each position. And so today, Brandon and I are going to be picking 2 programs that we think have the best defensive line unit in the country. So Brandon, who are you picking? As you can either go backwards or forwards, I don't care. Who is either your 1 or 2 best D-line unit in the country?
Yeah, I'm not gonna rank them. I'm just gonna give you 2. My first one is obviously, and you're probably gonna want to jump in on this, but Miami. I mean, you've been speaking their praises.
Yeah, they're my number 1 for sure.
So So let's go ahead. Well, let's talk about it. Um, I mean, you are obviously very high on them for a reason, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
A 6'7",
yeah,
260-pound Riesen called Gregory Rousseau.
Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips, who is a UCLA transfer to Miami
Yep.
this season.
A former number one recruit in the country when he came out.
Yeah, 5-star prospect. I mean, insane. Um, I don't know. I mean, like you said, Rousseau is a monster. I mean, he was a sophomore this past season, 15 and a half sacks on a Miami team that overall, I mean, we can say they struggled this past season, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's I think that even might be an understatement. They lost to Louisiana Tech, Brandon.
Yeah, listen, when you're losing Louisiana Tech, we have to get some things together. Well, if you're a Power Five team, Group of Five, they were pretty good last season, but um, I don't know. I mean, I just see big things coming from Miami. Obviously, you're very high on them. A lot of people are extremely high on them, and uh, I honestly thought you were going to take over more of this than you currently are.
Yeah, I
Zach,
mean,
save me
like
from drowning.
like you mentioned Jalen Phillips, who hasn't really proven himself, but he has a lot of potential. And you mentioned Gregory Rousseau, second in the NCAA last year. I think he was half a sack behind Chase Young, and he was a
Yeah,
redshirt freshman last year. I mean, are you kidding me?
right.
And you mentioned all that, Brandon, and you did not mention Quincy Roche, who just transferred from Temple, and he just won the AAC Defensive Player of the Year and had his own season of 13 sacks last season.
That's a good point.
So they have two of the best, I would say, the two best defensive ends in college football. You have a former number one recruit who went to a UCLA program that sucks at, developing talent. Well, I think that even might be nice. But he has the potential to play all across the defensive line. So Jalen Phillips can move inside. So you have three elite defensive linemen on that line, and then on the inside, you return Nesta J. Silvera. He started 20 games already. Jonathan Ford, a 33-game starter. Jordan Miller, 16-game starter. So you have three defensive tackles that have 15 or more games experience in the ACC already. And plus, Manny Diaz is known for his ferocious, hard-hitting defensive scheme where his defensive lineman can go after the quarterback. And you get a second year under him. And then you bring in Chance Williams, the number 7 weak side defensive end, Jalen Rivers, number 12 D tackle, Elijah Roberts, the number 13 strong side defensive end. All our top 100, all like our top 200 recruits, all 4 stars, and they come in as highly touted defensive linemen that just add an outrageous amount of depth to an already elite defensive line. I don't think there's a defensive line in the country that can say from top to bottom is more stacked than the Miami Hurricanes.
That's tough, but yeah, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
I mean, it's crazy. And, I'll move to my second team. We're staying in the ACC here. And I think this is
No,
a close second, but it's going to be Clemson here.
has to be
And
Clemson, right?
it has to be. I mean, let's be honest here. Clemson should not surprise any of our listeners. And it starts with Xavier Thomas. He already has 26 games of starting experience. He's going into his third year as a starter at a program where freshmen don't get to see the field a lot. He's already got 60 tackles, 5 sacks the past 2 seasons. He struggled with injuries last season, but with no spring practice, not a lot of workouts, he should be more than healthy this upcoming year. And that brings me to Tyler Davis. I mean, as a true freshman last year, he was arguably the best defensive lineman outside of Rousseau in the ACC. I mean, as a true freshman, Brandon, 45 total tackles, 10.5 for loss, 6.5 sacks, and at Clemson started all 15 games as a true freshman.
Yeah,
That's unheard of. I mean, freshmen do not see the field in Clemson, South Carolina, and Tyler Davis came out and had an outstanding season. And this next part is why I picked Clemson, Brandon. I think it's probably why you also have Clemson here, and it is the amount of ridiculous freshman talent that is coming in to Clemson this year. I mean, you have Brian Barisi, the number 1 player in this past class, number 1 defensive tackle. Brandon, in his final 3 years of high school, 82.5 tackles for loss and 45 sacks.
Insane. I mean, it's absolutely. There's a reason that he was number 1 recruit in the country.
As an interior defensive lineman, he got 45 sacks. Are you?
It's insane.
You got to be kidding me. And then you got Myles Murphy, the number 7 player nationally, another top 10 player, number 1 strong side defensive end, 37 tackles for loss, 20 and a half sacks in his final 2 years of high school. So you have Xavier Thomas and Tyler Davis, and then you have Brian Barisi, Myles Murphy coming into to go defensive tackle, defensive end opposite. And then you have DeMonte Capehart, 33 national, 5th defensive tackle, 84 tackles, 35 for loss, 12 and a half sacks as a defensive tackle his final 2 years of high school. So 3 defensive linemen in the top 40, all top 5 at their position, and you add that with Xavier Thomas and Tyler Davis. Are you kidding me? This defense, these 2 ACC teams are going to have the best defensive lines, and I really am so interested for the ACC because North Carolina does not have a scrub defensive line. Pitt has a really, really good defensive line. Virginia Tech's on the up and up. Marvin Wilson at Florida State is going to be a top 15 NFL draft pick. The defensive line talent in the ACC this year rivals just about any conference. And I know we're usually an SEC boasting podcast, but the ACC is going to be nothing to laugh at this year on the defensive side of the ball.
No, they're not. And in my honest opinion, it's not even close. I mean, I think it's Clemson, probably Miami, Pitt's up there for sure, and even nationally. And then, then maybe you can dip into the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Ohio States. But I don't know, man. In the ACC, I don't know what's going on there, but defensive linemen just want to go play there for whatever reason.
And listen, I know there's some guys at Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia who probably are going to be really, really good up here too, but there's a lot of losses. I mean, are you telling me Chase Young is just going to be a plug-in? You have a replacement you can just plug in and completely replace everything Chase Young brought to Ohio State? You can't tell me they can. You really can't. And they lost a lot of auxiliary players that were behind Chase Young that did special things on that team too. Alabama loses a ton of talent every year. I'm sure there's some defensive linemen at Alabama that people are going to be like, well, you didn't include them. Yes, they're really good, but they're not as proven as Gregory Rousseau, as Xavier Thomas. And neither of those teams have 3 top 33 defensive linemen coming in. And it's just Clemson had to be here, and Quincy Roche and Gregory Rousseau are the 2 best defensive ends in the entire country. So how do you not have them?
No, you have to. That's like I said, I didn't want to rank mine 1 and 2 because I think that both of these programs are respectable in their own rights. But it's hard to argue against either one of these teams.
Well, I'll give you this. I think Clemson by the end of the season could have the number 1 defensive line, but we've seen highly touted defensive linemen come in and not produce like they should. But if Barisi and Myles Murphy and Capehart all live up to their potential, Clemson will most likely have the number 1 defensive line in the country. It's just I took experience with Miami over unproven freshmen, unproven touted freshmen at Clemson. We saw Gregory Rousseau have 15 and a half sacks. We saw Quincy Roche have 13 sacks. You have 3 defensive tackles with over 25 games of starting experience. So I think with this year, especially with COVID and no spring practice, I think experience is going to weigh more than just raw high school talent.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's too hard for me to overlook. The 3 top 50 defensive linemen that Clemson got this year alone.
It easily could have been the best positional haul in some time. It's up there. Ohio State had a ridiculous wide receiver class last year too, and Alabama has a ridiculous offensive line class this year. I think they have 2 5-stars and 2 4-stars already.
Right.
Since we covered Alabama, what was it, a few episodes back, they're already up to number 2 in the rankings already.
It's ridiculous. Because
they had such a streak of offensive lineman commits that were just so good. They landed the Brockmeyer brothers. They landed a center. I forgot his name right now, but yeah, they are landing some elite talent, and I think those 3 positional units are some of the best in college football recruiting history. If you ask me,
you could have just said the one Brockmeyer brother, because I understand they were a package deal, but there's one that's a lot better than the other.
Well, the other one's a top 100 4-star. Just because his other brother is like the number 3 recruit in the country, I get that. But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're both going to be really, really good.
Fair. It's fair enough.
Okay, so if LSU landed the less touted brother, would you be upset?
I'd be pretty upset that we didn't get the better brother.
Hey, that's fair enough. But guys, we're going to move on here. Third segment of the day, and it's the recruiting re-rank. This is going to be the last one we do. I know we could have kept going, but the players in 2019, I mean, odds are only a handful of them have played, so it's kind of unfair to rank them before they've had a chance to play. I mean,
we're gonna put. I'll go ahead and do it real quick. I'll put Derek Stingley at 1, and I'll put Keaton Slovis at 2, then Sam Howell, and I mean, you want me to keep going? Yeah.
Hey, there you go, guys. We did it for y'all. Derek Stingley was going to be 1 regardless, but in case you're new to the podcast, Brandon,
Thibodeau.
Oh, yeah,
he's up there.
He is a monster. But Brandon and I re-rank each recruiting class. We started with 2013. We're only going to reanalyze the top 100, pick the top 5 players from that top 100 based on only their college performance. This episode, we're looking at the 2018 class, headlined by Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, arguably 2 of the best college quarterbacks today. I'm assuming they're probably both on our list, or definitely Trevor Lawrence at least. So, Brandon, you know how this goes. So give us your number 5 recruit in this class.
My number 5 recruit, this is going to be a little bit disappointing to everybody out there because everyone knows I'm not good at talking about offensive linemen. So Penei Sewell, get on out there. I'm not going to give any stats because there aren't stats. I'm sure he's on Zach's list at some point, so you'll hear a lot more about him later.
Yeah, I have plenty of stats for my boy Penei Sewell, so he comes in way later on my list. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and give my number 5 since Brandon, doesn't like his offensive lineman. I'm upset. Brandon, you played center.
Yeah, I did. But I didn't have any stats.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the best long snappers in Mobile County, man.
That's right. I'm the second best that Coach French ever coached. He told me that at my senior banquet.
That's wild. Coach French is the GOAT. But, my number 5 is going to be Justin Fields here.
Okay.
Ohio State quarterback, originally committed to Georgia. He was originally number 2. I know Fields being all the way down at 5 may surprise some people, but he's only had 1 year of real success. I mean, he couldn't beat out Jake Fromm for his job. Fair. That's tough. I mean, he did dominate the Big Ten last season. He took college football by storm. I mean, 67% completion percentage, 3,200 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. Added 10 rushing touchdowns to that. He was top 5 in completion percentage, passing yards per attempt, passing touchdowns, passer efficiency, rushing touchdowns. I mean, and was top 3 in the Heisman voting. He easily could end up being in the top 3, but I need to see more. I mean, if he goes out, wins the Heisman this year, yeah, he's moving up. If he goes out there, has 4,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing, something outrageous, he can move up. Or a national championship. I mean, he threw an interception to end the Clemson game. Right. I mean, I just need to see him go in those big games, win them. And if he can do that, if he goes out and has another year like he did last year, he could go down as one of the best Ohio State quarterbacks of all time. But I need to see more than just I need to see more than just one elite season from Fields before I can put him higher in my list.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I honestly thought I won't say anything right now, but I thought I was coming in hot with where I put Justin Fields. But so you've got number 4 now, Zach.
Yeah, number 4. Brandon, I have a lot to say about this guy, but I'll let you chime in too because it's your boy. It's Jamar Chase, LSU wide receiver. He was originally 84th in the country. That's a great value. I mean, if an 84th player in the country could always be Jamar Chase, sign me up. I'll take him every time.
Which is crazy, by the way, because he was I think he was number 20 for 247.
Yeah.
In just their rankings.
Mm-hmm. But I think ESPN and 247 always conflict a lot. Tank Bigsby on Rivals and 247 was the 30th ranked player, a running back that just committed to Auburn. ESPN had him at 120.
That's nuts.
Always trust 247 and Rivals, guys. If you trust the outlets that actually look at recruiting all the time rather than just a national outlet like that. I'm done talking. I'm done hating on ESPN, but I love ESPN, but they're not the recruiting go-to. Get you a 247 or Rival subscription if you really want to look in depth in recruiting. But you can't talk about exploding onto the scene without mentioning Jamar Chase. I mean, absolutely dominated college football last year.
He did. And I mean, I guess I can go ahead and skip ahead. He's my number 3 player on this list. Number 4, Zach already touched on. I might as well go ahead and chime in here. Justin Fields, Zach already talked about him. We'll skip over that. My number 3 player, Jamar Chase. I mean, let's talk about a breakout season. 1,780 yards from scrimmage. I'm sorry, that's I take it back. 1,785 yards from scrimmage because he had a 5-yard rush. 1,780 yards receiving. Over 84 receptions. That means that he was 21 yards per reception this past season. 20 touchdowns. I don't know how many drop balls he had, but it wasn't many because this guy's got glue on his gloves. I mean, talk about a reliable receiver. I mean, Zach's made it abundantly clear that he's one of the main reasons that Joe Burrow had the season he had this past season. And I have to agree. I mean, he's an insane player and a crazy value at number 84 overall.
I mean, last season, he ranked 2nd in the SEC in catches. He ranked 1st in the NCAA and SEC in receiving yards, 4th in the country, 1st in the SEC in yards per reception, 1st in the country and SEC in receiving touchdowns. I mean, he won the Biletnikoff. He was a consensus All-American, and he is my choice right now for the 2020 Biletnikoff. I think it's going to be him or Rondelle Moore. Those are the 2 that I am looking for. Maybe Jalen Waddle can get in there. I just don't know if he can do it on a consistent basis. And I mean, like Cole Kubelik said, he's arguably the best wide receiver in the country and could make a run at 2,000 yards receiving if Miles Brennan lives up to the hype that these LSU fans have him at. I mean, if he was that big of a target for Joe Burrow, he's going to be the number 1 choice. He's going to be the go-to guy. Justin Jefferson's gone. Jamar Chase should be the number 1 option, hands down. And he's going to be a top 5 pick, top 10 pick next season in the NFL draft. And if he puts up another year like he did this year, could rival Odell, Jarvis Landry as one of the best LSU wide receivers of all time.
Right. And I know you just mentioned Rondelle Moore. So when I'm editing this, I'm not going to do it, but I'm tempted to go back to about 11 months ago when I had Rondelle Moore listed like number 5 on my Heisman watch, and you just laughed it off. You're like, oh, no, he sucks. He plays at Purdue. Okay.
Rondelle Moore is a monster, man. But I mean, so Chase could be in my top 3, but all of my top 3 players have put together 2 to 3 seasons of domination, which puts them over Chase for me. Even though Chase might have had the best season, I think he has to do it one more time to jump above my top 3 players.
I don't see any reason that he won't. I mean, obviously he was Joe Burrow's first choice. I take it back. I want to say that Justin Jefferson had more receptions than he did. Obviously, Jamar Chase had more yards. And don't quote me on what I just said, by the way. I know I might get my LSU fandom stripped of me for making a false claim, but don't even check me on it, honestly. But I mean, 21 yards per reception over this past season is, I mean, I don't know another word to say other than insane. I mean, it doesn't seem like it should be able to happen.
I had 2 first downs every time he caught the ball, man.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
That's tough. That's real tough. But, guys, moving to my number 3 player since Brandon skipped up to his.
Had to.
I have Micah Parsons, Penn State linebacker. He was originally 5th in this class. And the best linebacker in this country resides in Happy Valley. And Parsons should be the number 1 linebacker taken in the NFL draft if he decides to leave. Dylan Moses has an argument. Micah Parsons is that guy. He is that dude. And he's the perfect field general at middle linebacker and has the athleticism to play all across the defense. I've read some experts that NFL scouts that have said he is the next Isaiah Simmons and has potential to be even better than Isaiah Simmons. That's how high people are on Micah Parsons.
Well, he absolutely does, and he comes in at number 2 on my list. So I know I keep skipping ahead, but you keep making really good points here, Zach. Yeah, so I honestly, I know who you have at number 2. I knew it all along, but
did you?
Yeah, Micah Parsons. Yes, I did. The second you said, I think you might have glazed over him. I was like, So, yeah, if that doesn't give it away, I don't know what does. But Micah Parsons is an insane man. I mean, he is a monster. He had 109 total tackles this past season. Yeah. 109 total, 14 of those for a loss. I mean, he's a menace, if I had to put it into a word.
I mean, he was top 10 in the Big Ten in solo tackles, assisted tackles, total tackles, tackles for loss, and forced fumbles, in which he was 4th in the country in forced fumbles for last season. And he has the accolades to go along with it. I mean, freshman All-American, honorable mention for all Big Ten his freshman season, consensus All-American last year by NCAA. He was first team All Big Ten. He was the finalist for the Buckus Award, and he is my favorite and experts' favorites for the Buckus and the Gursky Award next season. And I think anybody who knows a single ounce of college football should have this dude. Not one. If it's not one, it's top 3. And if you have Micah Parsons outside your top 3 linebackers in the country, you need to go watch some film because this guy is elite.
I don't know who else you'd put above him. I mean, I get Dylan Moses. I can hear that argument, but
maybe Dylan Moses. I mean, that's it. Maybe. That's the only one I could think of.
I don't know. We're gonna have some responses to this at some point. I feel like,
but bring them to me. I promise you, they're not Micah Parsons.
Okay,
I could think of some good ones. We can go back and forth all day, but I promise you, Micah Parsons is winning any debate you want to bring to the table.
He is, and he's another one of those players like Isaiah Simmons who can sort of play back it. I understand he doesn't really play a lot of safety, but I mean, would you count him out at like a strong safety position?
No, they had him listed as kick return.
Right. It's and if they put him there, by the way,
I'm fighting. James Franklin has to come see these hands because are you going to put your best player at kick return as a linebacker? Like, get out of here. I know it was probably just like a joke, but if I see him return one kick, I'm driving to Happy Valley, and we are not going to live up to that name because it is not going to be any good visit coming for me if Micah Parsons returns a single kick, punt. I don't even care if he catches an interception. You better drop down. I don't want to see him get hurt at all. I like Micah Parsons a lot, but number 2. Brandon alluded to it. It's Penei Sewell, offensive lineman, Oregon, originally 57th. I really, really wanted to put him first. I really, really did. My decision came down to which position is probably more important. It's quarterback. We all know as soon as I introduced who was the top 2 people in this class, everyone knew who was coming at number 1. But let's focus on Sewell right now. He deserves this respect. And Sewell, any other class we've covered, going all the way back to 2013, Sewell is going to be number 1 for me in almost any other class. The only one I would call into question is the Minkah Fitzpatrick class because Minkah Fitzpatrick's that guy. But Sewell's going to go down as the best offensive lineman in recent memory. I mean, that's just a fact. And yes.
What about Quentin Nelson?
Well, I said one of the best.
Okay.
Okay. Like I think you have Quentin Nelson, Orlando Brown. That's it. He's going down top 3 of all time. So let me just run these stats by you, Brandon. Apparently you can't do offensive line research like your boy.
I just don't know if they have stats. I feel like you're making stats up.
No. So Pro Football Focus, Sewell graded out as the best offensive lineman in the country last season. Brandon, his grade was 95.5%.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. That's not a stat. That's
hang on. I got you. That means 95.5% of the snaps he played, he got his assignment.
Okay, fair.
He was a 4-time Pac-12 Offensive Lineman of the Week. No other team had a player win it more than twice. Brandon, he played 926 snaps this last season. No sacks allowed. Only 7 pressures and 2 quarterback hits.
Jeez, man,
He
that's
he
nuts.
didn't allow a pressure, hit, or hurry of Justin Herbert in 9 of the 13 games Oregon played.
That's insane. I mean,
And
that's
and if you want to go back to his freshman season, he allowed 1 sack in 450 snaps as a true freshman.
I mean, I get it. I get where you're coming
And,
from.
and we can keep going. He's the most decorated offensive lineman in the country. I mean, Outland Award winner, unanimous All-American. He was the AP and Pro Football Focus Pac-12 Player of the Year. I mean, the Player of the Year as an offensive lineman? How good do you have to be? I mean, Pro Football Focus went back through the season. Sewell ranked as the best run blocking offensive lineman in the country and the 3rd best pass blocking offensive lineman. Both of those rankings are over 91% success on every play. 926 plays, 95.3% he did the right thing and got his assignment. That doesn't even seem real, Brandon. Like, just name a random activity that you think you could be perfect at for 95.5% of the time.
Honestly, I'm not very good at a lot of things, Zach, and you knew that, so I feel like that was a real low blow.
I mean, I guess that's why. I mean, hey, I can't do much either, so I guess that's why neither of us are on scholarship at Oregon, nor are we the Outland Award winner or
Oh,
the
oh,
one of the
oh.
best offensive linemen in the country.
I thought of something. 95.5% of the time, I actually record episodes on time.
Oh, that's true. We are a day late, guys, but Brandon, he was not feeling well yesterday, so we bring you guys an episode on Tuesday instead of Monday. I bet you a bunch of our listeners had a terrible Monday because you were sick, Brandon.
They might have had a better Monday because I was sick, honestly.
that also could have been the case, but guys, I mean, well, I feel like we can move to the number 1 player. I've said enough about Sewell. He's going to be a legend, but Brandon, I feel like we built this up a lot a few episodes ago when you had Dexter Lawrence over Ed Oliver as number 1, but I am extremely confident that we have the same number 1 here.
Yeah, Zach, I think you're absolutely right. So let's talk about Terrace Marshall Jr. Yeah,
I was like, no, that'd be tough because that would be like your LSU fan card would have to be taken for putting him over Jamar Chase.
well, I don't know about that. They're both pretty good. Cade Mays, so we're talking about no, Trevor Lawrence, obviously. I mean, the greatest. I don't know how you almost put Penei Sewell over him. By the way, that seems a little
I mean,
ridiculous.
I'm okay. Like, I mean, I feel like they're both. They could both, depending on how this next season goes, go down as the best player at their position in college football history.
I don't know. I mean, Trevor Lawrence probably will. I mean, and if not, I mean, he had the most potential of any college player in the history of college football. If he didn't,
Yeah.
but Penei Sewell, I mean, he's up there. I'm not going to argue with you there, but Trevor Lawrence, I mean, this kid's the prototype. How do you not? How is he not on? If he's not on your list, then good thing you're listening to this and you're getting informed because you really needed it today.
I'm about to say, in case you don't know who Trevor Lawrence is, let us introduce you. This is actually interesting, Brandon. So I believe I know it's true for my list that we've done so far, and I believe it is for yours. Lawrence is the first player that was the number 1 recruit in the country that is number 1 in either of our re-ranks.
No, I think last episode I had the number one overall recruit. I could be wrong
That's
there.
that's tough, but it's definitely for me. And I mean, Lawrence, to say dominated is just almost repetitive because dominated is not even really the word. I mean, yes, like he didn't win the national championship last year, but he's lost 1 game in college, and
Yeah,
it's what 2 games since his freshman year of high school. Are you
dude,
kidding
and
me?
and we bagged on this kid. We bagged on him at the beginning of the last season, but then he ended up having a better season than his freshman year. I mean, he had a better completion percentage. He had a better. I mean, he was a million times a better rusher this past season. Um, I mean, he passed for more yards. He had more playing time, obviously, too, but he had more yards per pass. I mean, he ended up being an overall better player this past season. And everyone was calling it his sophomore slump. I mean, that's a state. That's a I mean, that if that doesn't show you how good he is, then I don't know what will.
I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, so in what 2 years at Clemson, he's thrown for just under 7,000 yards, 65% completion percentage, 66 touchdowns, only 12 interceptions, and 162 passer rating, along with 10 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's top three in the ACC for both seasons. His freshman, which by the way, he didn't start the first 4 games, and last season, he was top three in his conference in completion percentage, passing yards, yards per attempt, passing touchdowns, and passer efficiency for both years. Top three in the ACC.
Insane.
And listen, I know the knock on Lawrence is going to be this. Well, you guys have had Deshaun Watson won. You guys have been Micah Fitzpatrick won. They all have won these awards. They've all done this. But yes, I know Lawrence hasn't won the big awards. But his freshman season, he didn't even play he barely played the first 4 games and then got hurt.
Right.
And then on top of that, last season we saw the greatest season by a college football quarterback of all time. So it's a little unfair to compare that. I mean, if Joe Burrow didn't exist in college football, we'd be talking about how Trevor Lawrence is undefeated and just won his second national championship.
That's a good point.
And
to think this kid's only loss was in the national championship is bananas.
Which he was winning in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Or late second. But he had a 17-7 lead at one point.
Yeah, I was not a very happy camper at that moment, but yeah.
Okay, so hear me out. Trevor Lawrence got a lot of flack for that performance, but that was the first game I think Trevor Lawrence has had to just put everything on his back. That defense collapsed down the stretch. And I'm not saying Brent Venables should feel bad. I promise you that LSU offense wasn't being stopped by anybody. I don't care who you put in front of them. Joe Burrow was LSU's year. But Lawrence in 2018, his freshman season, he was a Maxwell Award finalist, Manning Award finalist, Davey O'Brien finalist. He was a freshman All-American, ACC Rookie of the Year, and second team All ACC. That's impressive. And then last year, he was a Manning Award finalist, Davey O'Brien finalist, Walter Camp Player of the Year finalist, and first team All ACC. It's not like he's out here not gaining any national recognition or accolades. It's just the Heisman Trophy, the one y'all are all waiting for, was taken by the greatest college football quarterback season of all time in Joe Burrow. And then he didn't even play all his games his freshman year.
Right. It's crazy.
So yeah, they almost lost that Syracuse game. How many points do you think Trevor Lawrence is really going to put on Syracuse, Brandon?
A trillion.
Let's be honest. If Chase Bryce, or I believe Chase Bryce is, I believe he transferred. But if Travis Etienne doesn't carry that team to a win, and Trevor Lawrence is in there, Trevor Lawrence is racking up those stats. And then if you start him over Kelly Bryant, I think he racks up even more stats. And I think he puts up stats similar to Kyler Murray in 2018. He was an award finalist with those two already after not playing 5 games.
It's crazy.
And their first game and their first 4 games, the only tough game was A&M, Texas A&M on the road. The rest of them, he could have padded those stats. Absolutely. It's not like they were playing world beaters out there, guys. I mean, listen, Trevor Lawrence is the best college football quarterback right now, and it's not even a debate. It's literally not. And
it's literally not.
And if you want to throw out anybody's name you want, go ahead, because Trevor Lawrence is winning the argument, just like I said with Micah Parsons, same with Jamar Chase. They're the best players at their position right now. And if Trevor Lawrence puts it together, wins a Heisman and a national championship this year, I don't think you can argue that any quarterback in college football history should go above him. I really don't.
Well, let me ask you this: what if you put Penei Sewell at quarterback? Then where are you ranking Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, dude, Penei Sewell is a beast on the offensive line. I don't know if I want him taking snaps, man. I mean, do you think he can get out of the pocket? I don't know if he can. I don't know. I'd be a little worried, wouldn't you?
It's a big maybe. You never know.
That's a big question mark on the. Is that who they're going to get to replace Justin Herbert at Oregon? They're going to put Penei Sewell in at quarterback.
Could be.
Listen, Penei Sewell for Heisman, guys. They're going to put him in like the Wildcat at goal line. It's going to be the fridge part two. Penei Sewell is going to lead the league in rushing. That's what I'm
Yeah.
rooting for.
Yep. I'm in.
I mean, but honestly, I mean, if Trevor Lawrence goes out there, wins another national championship, wins the Heisman, can you even make an argument that he's not the best college quarterback of all time?
No, I mean, I think he's like really, really, really close right
I was
now.
about to say he's probably
So
top 10 right now already.
right, and so I mean, absolutely. I mean, come on, he has
And
he has
God
2 seasons
forbid if he comes back.
over 4 years. Phew.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
wrap. Any record you want to talk about, that is a wrap.
done for.
It's gone, guys. But listen, we are going to move on. Last segment of the day, and as we usually do, except for last episode, we end the show with an exclusive recruiting update. And check out all our recent episodes to catch up on updates from all around the country. Today, though, guys, we head down to College Station to analyze the Texas A&M Aggies. They're trying to follow up a top 10 class last season, and Jimbo Fisher is finally looking to compete for the SEC West this season. And this class is headlined already with 6 top 300 recruits. Still early here, so the Aggies have some work to do. But Brandon, what's your take on this class? And do you see Texas A&M finally building that SEC contender that we've all been waiting to see?
Look, it's going to be tough for them to top what they did this past season. They finished sixth in the country in recruiting. They had 2 5-star recruits who were already enrolled at school in College Station. Um, and this season, I mean, it's looking like it might put up a fight to last season, but like I said, it's so tough to do that. Um, right now, they rank sixth in the SEC. This past season they were sixth nationally. Um, so I mean, it's definitely hard to live up to, but I mean, at the same time, and this is something I've been harping on with every single team we've covered. Texas A&M only has 12 commits right now. So they have a lot of room for improvement. I mean, as they're sitting right this second, they have five. They have 5 3-star recruits, and the rest of those, the rest of the 7 are 4 stars. And they still got a lot of players on their, on their, I don't even know, on the radar. That's the word. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. I just went blank minded. But um, and I like what I'm seeing out of them so far with their commits. I mean, obviously, this class is headlined by Shadrach Banks out of North Shore, Texas, out of North Shore High School in Houston. Uh, that if that high school name sounds familiar, it's because that's where Zachary Evans went. Apparently, they're just pumping out players like it's nothing. Um, Great wide receiver, but he's 100 nationally. This team. That's one of the things that I've also noticed that they don't have a top I guess top 99 recruit. Their top recruit is number 100 in the nation, which is nothing to shake your head at. Still an outstanding class, but I feel like at some point you have to break into that, and I think it's just a matter of time for Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M to do that.
Well, okay, so I'll come back to Banks in a second with you. But you know, we've covered other classes. We did Baylor and Texas, and their classes really hinge on the state of Texas. But only 6 of the 12 recruits in this class are from Texas. And I think
Yeah,
it just shows the national reach that a coach like Jimbo Fisher has over a new coach like Dave Aranda or I don't know why I'm blanking, Tom Herman from Texas. I just cannot stand him so much. But I think that's a huge thing there to look at because there's some players in Texas that have not committed yet, and A&M definitely could sneak up on. But I want to go to Banks, like you said. He's 100 national out of North Shore. But the reason I think it's going to be okay, Brandon, he's going to move up. He's 100 national and only played 5 games last year. He had an injury that kept him out most of the season. And in those 5 games, he already had 22 catches, over 400 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
I mean, it's
So he
insane.
was he was on pace to put up huge numbers. And in his sophomore year, Brandon, he was a big factor on a team that went 16-0 and won the state title. He had 60 catches, 1,300 yards, and 17 touchdowns as a sophomore in Texas.
I
So
mean, it's
I think a fully
nuts.
healthy season is going to do wonders for Banks. So don't be surprised if Banks makes a run at the top 50. And he's already about 6 foot 205, and that's a perfect size to be a wide receiver one at the next level. And I think his biggest strength is his playmaking ability. I mean, a lot of scouts have compared his athleticism to a running back instead of a wide receiver. He just has that
Yeah.
shiftiness, but he's not extremely fast. He doesn't have that, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle type speed. But if he sharpens up his route running, he could be a serious contender in the SEC. And that brings me to another recruit that stands out, and that's Eli Stowers out of Denton, Texas. He's 165th national, the 7th ranked dual threat quarterback, and he already looks the part of an SEC quarterback. He's 6'4", 215 already as a junior, and his sophomore season was kind of up and down. I mean, that's to be expected though, Brandon. I mean, you look back to your sophomore season in high school. I mean, it, and you compare it to like a senior. I mean, just physically, mentally, like it's completely different on how you feel as a sophomore compared to a senior in high school football.
No, I mean, no doubt.
And we played in Mobile, Alabama. I mean, could you imagine playing Texas football as a sophomore as a quarterback? I mean, he had over 1,500 yards passing, 1,100 yards rushing, but he had a 13 interceptions to 13 touchdowns. Not great. So decision making was a huge like negative for his film. But junior season, guys, you want to talk about something serious? Over 2,900 yards passing, 36 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions. You want to talk about a kid developing and maturing real fast. And not only that, he continued his ground ability with over 1,100 yards rushing again and 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So the kid had over 40 total touchdowns, and he put up almost 4,000 yards of just offense by himself. And watching his film, he reminds me of a more athletic Kellen Mond. But the
Okay.
benefit that he gets over Kellen Mond is that he may also get Jimbo Fisher for 4 years instead of having a rough freshman season like Kellen Mond did, where it was in between and then you have to learn the system and all kind of stuff. So he'll get a head start where Mond had to learn on the fly. And Mond got thrown in as a freshman, man. I mean, he had some rough games. I mean, Mond, I think all his potential stems from him just having a rough freshman season, and I think his confidence got shattered. But he's a better decision maker than Mon, and that's what limits Kellen Mond's potential for me. And I think this kid is the perfect quarterback for Jimbo Fisher's system. And if everything goes right, he might have his quarterback like he found in Jameis Winston way back at Florida State.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see this out of this kid. Um, and there's a couple of these players that stick out to me. I know that I love skipping ahead during this segment and talking about my underrated player, and so I'm probably just going to go ahead and do that if that plays. So let's talk about a player in Deuce Harmon, out of where's he from? He's out of Denton, Texas. He played at Geyer High School. I guess he still plays at Geyer High School. He's a cornerback, 4-star cornerback. Um, the 303rd nationally ranked player and 45 in the state of Texas. He comes in a little undersized for the position. I mean, he's 5'9", 185 pounds. And for a college cornerback, that like I said, it's a little bit on the smaller side, but he's not afraid to really stick his head in any situation and break up passes. I mean, just by watching his film, watching a few minutes of his film, I noticed that he's not afraid to step between a wide receiver and that ball. And speedy is an understatement for this kid. I mean, he's nearly outrunning wide receivers on these routes, which not always a great thing to do, but on the go routes that I've seen him defend, I mean, there's not much else that you should want to do, especially if the quarterback's overthrowing the receivers. In the certain situation I saw, that's exactly what they were doing. Um, so yeah, I think this is gonna be a player that jumps right into Jimbo Fisher's defense and really makes a statement. I'm not sure if it's going to be this upcoming season, not this upcoming season, next season, um, but it's going to be in the near future if it's not.
You know, we've done this segment for a long time. I don't think you've ever stole my prospect, but he was also my underrated prospect for this class. I guess you're learning, man. I guess you were
I am.
learning.
Thank you.
Like you said, his size is a valid concern. That's really, really small for a cornerback, and that has to worry coaches about his ability to cover big wide receivers and tight ends in the SEC. I mean, you see a tight end like Kyle Pitts for Florida. He is in the slot. He's outside a lot. He's not a blocking tight end. He can beat DBs deep, and that worries you. I mean, if you throw a ball up, Kyle Pitts is I think 6'6". How do you even defend it? Um, and the reason I'm picking Harmon here, I know listeners are like, well, you're saying he's too small and all this. Well, I think he's moving positions when he gets to Texas A&M, which is why I picked him.
Yeah.
I think they're going to move him to wide receiver. And when I look at his size, his speed, his playmaking ability, I think of someone like Rondelle Moore, who's a similar size and stature, and they have similar playing styles. He has great speed. I believe he was clocked at a 4.5, maybe high 4.4. He already has
Yeah, you're right.
he has a 40-inch vertical already. And so that helps him, even though his size might not be the best. But in his high school career so far, he already has 90 tackles in 2 years and has broken up 20 passes with 5 interceptions. And he can bring like Brandon said, he brings the boom, 3 forced fumbles. But for me, I think he just projects better as a wide receiver. Put him in the slot. He's going to be really hard to cover because he's fast and shifty. He'll do real good on the underneath routes, and he can beat DBs deep. I really think he has the speed to do that, and putting on a little bit of weight will increase his durability in the SEC. Because I mean, you have to worry. I mean, some of these safeties in the SEC are 6'3", 215. They're glorified linebackers. Um, so you have to watch out for that. But he has the speed to beat linebackers for sure, and I think he has even the speed to beat some safeties. But he an A&M player he kind of reminds me of is Speedy Noyle. I know diehard college football fans will remember him. He went on, I believe he's in the CFL now. He had a brief NFL career. He was a short, speedy type wide receiver that really excelled at Texas A&M, and I see Rondelle Moore slash Speedy Noyle type of potential for Harmon, and he could be a real asset moving forward. And I don't think he has a future in the SEC as a DB, especially when you see wide receivers like Jamar Chase, Seth Williams, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I don't think his size would help him against any of those wide receivers.
No, absolutely not. You're right.
That's tough. I mean, but guys, that is a wrap on this episode. Listen, uh, this is episode 100 of the Blue Bloods, man. We started this August last year, man, and we got to episode 100 in July. We just wanted to give a shout out to all you listeners out there. I don't even care if you listened to our first episode and are back now, man. You listen to one episode, that means a lot to us. Keep spreading the word, man. We're gonna keep this thing going. I can't wait for 200 episodes. I know Brandon can't either, but we just wanted to give a shout out to all you awesome listeners out there, man. It means the world to us. When we started this, man, I know Brandon would echo this. We didn't think a single person would listen to this thing, and we've done thousands of downloads, streams, all that stuff, and you guys are literally the best listeners ever.
I couldn't think of any better listeners, to be honest with you. And honestly, they want to listen to us. There's something about them. I'm not sure if it's good or not, but it's something.
But guys, we are still in the works with big things, merch, website updates, all that kind of stuff. We got to get back on the blogs for you guys. We're going to be on that, man. But Keep tuning in, subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Tell your friends, families, everything, man. Keep spreading the word about the Blue Bloods. We out here putting work in for you guys in a coronavirus riddle time, bringing y'all college football content with no college football. That's something. But you guys keep listening, keep subscribing. We will keep dropping episodes. That's how all this works, man. But for right now, we out.